going. Hey there! What do you say there, world? Welcome back to another episode of the Racers Recap. Sometimes I say that it's going to be a great episode, and I'm just trying to hype things up. But this is going to be a great episode. It's the finale for the first ever season of The Amazing Race with Dr. Maya. How you doing? And
hello.
our special guest, season 1 winner in the Amazing Race Mount Rushmore. Season 1 winner, Brennan Swain. Is it Swain?
It's Swain. Yeah, that's
Swain.
right.
I like that.
Justin, you're going in and out.
Okay.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we hear you, but it's like skips. It like skips a couple of words, kind of.
What about now? Is that
sounds
any
okay.
better?
Although give us a little more excitement, because it was kind of like when you got excited is when we lost a little bit of you.
Oh, so maybe it was me pulling away from the microphone. I guess. Is this fine, or does it sound like an
exactly
echo?
what
Does
it
it
is.
sound like an echo? Okay.
Yep, now you sound good.
All right.
Better now.
All right. And it was also skipping frames.
And
For
remember,
some-
by the way,
For some-
Joey, if he does join, hasn't watched the season yet. So you know, don't remind him that. Well, now he's watched it. Of course, we're not watching the show live, so now he knows. I would love the fact that you guys went all season long, and every time he's like, "Well, I haven't seen the season, so I don't know who wins." And I'm like, "How can you not know?" It's like saying you don't know who won the first season of Survivor. Everyone knows Richard Hatch won.
Everyone knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agree.
I have to say that.
No, I totally agree though. Like, how do you not know? End of the show, how do you not know? And speaking of Joey, he said issues on his end. He'll be on in like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Oh, issues on his end. Joey, always waiting on Joey. Am I coming in and out, or is this okay? How does this audio sound, Brennan? Because she just got up and left.
Yeah, that sounds okay.
Okay.
I
She
had to
was
get
like,
my water.
I'm tired of this. I don't know what's going on.
I always water and I forgot it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was because I was going back and forth, and I have a filter to knock out my air conditioner. All right.
Sounds
All right.
better.
So we wait for Joey? No, we're not going to wait for Joey. We're going to get to a couple questions, and then we'll start the recap of the episode, because there is a
Right.
lot of questions.
All right. I'm here to answer. If
He's
I remember.
ready. And he even took his own notes. That's what I love about it. You're going to find out if you didn't
was.
know.
So,
That's 20
So-
years ago.
well, no, Maya, what we were talking about before you got on is because I know obviously you guys have had some great guests for my season, but a lot of the times you can tell that they didn't know the format. Hadn't fun. I've watched all 12 episodes of your recaps of my season. So what I was telling Justin is I took some notes on some things that were maybe not quite accurate. And who knows, maybe I'm misremembering things. We'll see. But I do have some notes.
Great. I mean that's helpful for us. You're the one who lived it.
That's
So,
true.
We're gonna take what you say. So
That's exactly what I said. Like, he's the original. He was there.
the OG.
That is true. Original. All right. Stop stalling for Joey. I'm sorry, Joey. I'm trying to stall. Nothing happens.
Well, I
just
have a
ma-
question. Brennan, where do you live? Where are you?
I'm in LA. I know you are as well. I learned that recently. I'm a little ways from you though. I'm in Marina Del Rey.
Oh, I mean that's not bad right now because there's no traffic, but
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Speaking of my race teammate, Rob, he lives in Sherman Oaks. And so when he moved there from West Hollywood, he and his wife about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And when they moved over there, I'm like, I'm never going to see you again, guys. You know, everybody in LA knows going over the hill from the west side to the valley is difficult. But during quarantine, I've been over. He's got a 4-month-old. I'm actually the godfather of his son. Yeah, and I've been over there visiting him all the time. I'm like, well, once quarantine's over, I might not see you guys again. So I'll wish Max well. That's his son's name.
See you twice a year during regular time. See you
exactly.
week during quarantine.
Right. And it has been pretty much every week.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So something that has nothing to do with season 1, really. Like, how the hell did you get the hermit that is your race partner to the season 27 start? You were at the starting line for our race, and we actually got to live half of your race.
That's right. I love that you bring that up. So he's an interesting guy because on the race, obviously he was a big character and so forth, but in real life, he's an introvert and he likes staying at home, doesn't like getting out a whole lot. Over the 19 years, I know there are still some reality charity events that people attend. There used to be a ton of them. I used to go to all of them. Knew everybody from all the early seasons of race, a lot of the other shows. I'm sure you guys have met people from other, Survivors, Big Brothers, those types of seasons and shows. Rob was just never big into going to those types of things. He loved the race experience, but just didn't do a lot of that. So I remember when they announced that they were going to do your guys' starting line, and I mentioned, hey, let's go do this. And so he's like, okay. And for whatever reason, he's come around in more recent years, and he does like doing this stuff a little bit more. As a matter of fact, as I mentioned to you, Justin, I tried to get him on the podcast today. He couldn't do it, but
I just thought you were joking about trying.
Seem like no, I really did, and I think he was legitimately a little disappointed because normally he'd just be like, nah. But he's like, I've kind of turned the corner. I kind of like doing that stuff now. Maybe he's got a little nostalgia since it's been so long. But it was awesome seeing you guys at the starting line. How cool to be there. I was at the starting line of seasons 4 and 5. Rob and I actually covered season 4 for the TV show Extra, which started at Dodger Stadium. Okay. And then season 5 started on the Santa Monica Pier, and I live in Santa Monica, so that one was pretty easy. They let us go to that one. But the difference with those, of course, was we just stood there and we had to stay off camera. So it was cool for season 27 to actually be there and watch you guys start. I had that adrenaline flowing, and I mean, I had some nerves, so I can't imagine what it was like for you guys.
Oh my God. It was absolutely incredible. And the cool thing about having to be at the starting line, the only time they get to say you, like, go back and redo it, go back and redo it, we need another cut, that gave you a chance to calm down. It gave you a chance to kind of get like used to it or actually get physically tired before you even started. So for us, it really calmed us. And we looked around and we're like, all right, you got your typical broach skis. They're going to be the big buff guys. You got your typical teams. I
remember, yep.
And I'm looking around. I know 60% of the time, a male-female team is going to win. I'm looking at the other male-female teams. I'm feeling good. And I tell Diana at the starting line, none of these teams can beat us. And she's like, you're crazy. And then after like the second leg, she started to believe. And then you could see she just started to get so much better as she gained more confidence because she's such an incredible partner, and I don't think she gets enough credit on my season. But Joey, can you hear us?
Wait,
okay.
Hey, yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, just want to make sure.
We can hear you.
How do I do the Star Wars thing?
I love you're the first person to mention it.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm a lawyer, so I'm doing Zoom meetings all the time, and there are a few weeks I've actually traveled during this COVID thing, and I didn't need people to see I was in a hotel room somewhere or whatever, so I threw that background on. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and there you go.
It's so much better than Justin's.
It is, definitely.
I usually have a huge picture of Maya back here. It looks like she's rubbing my shoulders, but kids are here today.
Wait, so Justin,
I'm always a white wall.
Justin, being the super fan that you are, did you recognize that there were a bunch of ex-racers there at your start line, or were you guys too focused to even pay attention?
No. I passed it down the line. I was like, look who's here. I named every single one of you. I was stoked. And I said, I think I even told Diana, I said, that's like seeing a Yeti. Like this season 1s, you only see half of the season 1 teams. You never see them together. And I even said, they're here. And I thought you guys were going to be somehow a part of the first, I was like, they're going to be a part of it. We have to go to them. Those are the winners. That's the people. Focus on them. I thought you guys were going to be part of the first task. I was a little disappointed.
So were we. That would have been fun.
Yeah. And then we just so happened to bump into season 2 winner jogging by, didn't even know it was the starting line. It was just such a weird experience.
That's so weird. Wow.
Well, he knew. I actually mentioned it to him that it was going to be around, but he just forgot. Yeah, but he literally was just jogging by and came over, and he was just a complete sweaty mess, so he wasn't going to stick around for the start. But yeah, Alex, he's actually one of my best friends. I was in his wedding last year, so the race, you make good friends from your own season and good friends from other seasons.
Don't tell me you won.
Okay, so Joey's here. That was just a little bit of season 27. We're going to go into a lot more questions later from Reddit, from here on YouTube, and obviously from Facebook. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them up in the chat. Make sure you @ me or Maya or Joey, or I don't know if you're in the chat, if that's a secret name for you.
Yeah, I'm using my sons again.
All right, here we go. We're off to finale. It's going to be exciting race between two teams. One team is ready to leave at 4 a.m. Next team ready to leave at 5 a.m. The other team still hasn't finished the last leg. And you ruined it for us. Just obviously.
Justin, you're going in and out still. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
no.
It's like.
You son of a gun. Here we go.
I think it is like.
Your soprano range.
Yeah.
Bitchy range.
I got your range.
That too.
Yeah, it's my female voice. It's picking up the female side. What if I changed it to this?
Is this better? Does this sound better? Can you guys hear me?
What the hell is that shit?
Can you hear me? He's got. Oh, you noticed the damn Star Wars backdrop, but you don't notice
Darth Vader. You can't listen to Darth Vader.
No.
That's
the worst Darth Vader I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, but Justin, it's for some reason it's going in and out. It's like skipping. I don't know why.
It's like this.
Is it?
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Of course.
First
Fuck
the Guidos and now the champs.
Wait, I thought you didn't know.
No, I saw it today.
I know. Before you got on, because he introduced me as the winner, and I was like, "Oh, I'm glad Joey's not on." And I thought, "Oh, wait a minute, we're not watching the show together. He's already watched it. We're recapping it."
I'm glad Joey's still trying to power up his PC to figure out what he's doing. I got like some snitch thing popping up, or snatch, or whatever the hell it was. I don't know. My son, he's 11.
Snitch or snatch?
I don't know. What's that thing that you do? That app?
Twitch.
Yeah, that. I had to shut that down. That wanted to get updated. And
Twitch is a little different than Snatch.
Very different.
Okay. Just so we're on the same page. All right. Let me know if I really start skipping again.
That sounds good there.
Yeah.
That sounds better.
Okay. I turned the suppression down. Oh, whatever. All right. So Rob and Brennan are ready to leave at 4 a.m. Frank and Margarita, 4:17. Frank and Margarita are ready to leave at 5:03. I mean, Joe and Bill are not even in it. I mean, we can talk about them if you want, but they really, nothing much happens with Team Guido, at least in this episode. All right, I love the little shacks that you guys got to sleep in. Those things seemed really cool. It seemed like really Alaska. It seemed like you really get involved, and I love that they got you into Alaska, make you feel a little bit instead of putting you in like a hotel. I mean, not like there's hotels in the middle of nowhere. But here's the first thing I need to ask you. You guys are ready to leave at 4 something. Your batteries are not working. And obviously no Boy Scouts, because Boy Scouts know sleep and you put it in your sleeping bag, your batteries. But Boy Scouts and super fans after this season know that batteries in the cold drain. You decided to wait for Frank and Margarita for just the light reasons, Or was there something deeper? Because I might have thought too much into it, because it could have been a super smart idea to let Frank and Margarita like dig the path and waste their energy because you didn't know how long it was and you just follow along in their paths? Or was it just because of the light?
It was just because of the light. And the reason we did it, I can't remember 19 years later, exactly how we knew we didn't have that far to go. And we knew once we read the clue, it was 4 a.m. basically, and we knew it opened at 8. We knew we weren't going to be trekking through the snow for 4 hours. And so, yeah, the batteries were dead. And let me give you a quick little, we'll back up. And this is something you guys talked about on the last episode. About, remember the business class thing where they got on business class and they made it sound like we rode in coach and the other teams ended up in business class. We actually were in business class too. I don't know why they said it that way. And that was actually, it was our idea. What happened was we talked to the woman at the, I can't remember what airline it was now, it was like China Southern Air or something like that. And we tried to convince her to bump people up, like they said, and put us in coach. Well, ultimately she said, no, we're going to put you in business class. We're like, no, we can't do that. She said, but you'll pay the economy class fare. We're like, sounds great. And then we told her, we said, there's going to be another couple Americans. They're going to be here soon. Don't give them the same deal. As soon as they got there, they gave them the same deal. And I didn't realize it until you had the Guidos on last week. The Guidos said they got the same deal the next day. So that was actually our move. So, but here's what happened was the original flight they wanted us to do was Beijing to, I think it was San Francisco to Seattle, Seattle to Anchorage. So it was 2 connections. And I thought there's got to be a better way we can do this. And because that was the normal route if you were going to Anchorage from Beijing. So we ended up figuring out a way we could do only 1 connection, because we all know if you have 3 flights, that's just one more chance that something can be delayed. So we managed to move it to be 1 connection. Frank and Margarita didn't figure that out. And I don't remember how they did. I always thought it was a little shady, but somehow they did figure it out. They didn't figure it out until they got into San Francisco. So what happened was they had radioed ahead that, meaning the crew had radioed ahead they only had 1 4x4 waiting for us when we got into Alaska and had to go to the place where we had to go to spend the night in one of those little cabins. So they hadn't let it. So when Frank and Margarita changed their flight, they never radioed ahead to have a second one. So since they got off the plane first, they basically took our 4x4. We got stuck waiting like an extra half an hour. So this is where we did, as you guys have talked about with other people, this is where we lawyered our way into 30 extra minutes. Every time there was a production delay during the race, they would give you a credit for that time. So because they only had 1 4x4 waiting for us, and we had to wait a half hour for the second one to show up, we said, give us a half-hour time credit. And they weren't going to. They eventually did, but they must have admitted that, well, it's not going to make any difference because the task you've got to do isn't open. So somehow we knew. So when we left, the reason we waited for them was we don't have a light. Let's just wait 30 minutes or whatever it was for them. Maybe they'll have a light. We won't go too far. We'll sit there and wait until the next thing opens. So that's what happened.
Brennan, when you said that they had that flight planned, who's they? Did they when they said they wanted you to take
Oh,
San
yeah.
Francisco?
No, good question. By they, I mean the airlines. Like if you showed up if you're going to book a flight from Beijing to Anchorage, they're making you take those 2 connections. We just figured out how to do a single connection.
I thought when you said that, I immediately went to that's
to production.
Probably a longer layover to let the Guidos catch up or something.
Yeah, right. No, luckily it wasn't that.
Right?
We all thought, we were like, we knew the Guidos were a day behind, but we're like, somehow those guys are going to catch up. Our production wants them to catch up because we know they're the villains and we want to be there to the end.
Yeah.
We definitely like having a villain on The Amazing Race.
Yeah, you have to.
Even when there's no villain on the season, they'll find one.
They'll find one. Hey, believe me, we were worried from the beginning we would be because we're lawyers. I mean, who are you going to cast as the villain?
You guys were brilliant in the final 3. Brilliant.
Well, thank you.
Looking back, the phone move was incredible.
Thanks.
That was incredible. Yeah.
They changed the rule right after that. Didn't allow anyone to do that.
Thanks to you, we couldn't do that anymore. But yes, that was incredible.
Yeah, they couldn't do it on season 2.
Right. I mean, did you all mail the phone back the next? Like,
we
2
did.
days?
We so here's the lengths we went through on that. It actually died. We went and figured out what kind of phone it was, bought a charger, because back then chargers were different for like every phone, and charged it up and mailed it back to the girl.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See, that was one of the questions. Did you actually mail it back, and how long did it take?
Yeah, we did a few days later. Yeah.
Did you throw in a couple extra dollars?
I don't think we did. I think we figured. I think $300 at the time was good enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hadn't gotten our check yet.
You know that girl's going back and watching. She's like, "Man, if I didn't give her the phone, they may not have won that $1 million." 300. 300.
Maybe that could make a difference than we did.
Yeah. All right, so we got Frank and Margarita saying that you're scared. They are so scared. Look at them. Look at this scared. They're waiting for us. They just want to follow us everywhere. What do you think about his... He says it quite often that you guys like to follow them. Is there any truth to that?
So...
Is that strategy? No, I didn't know if there was strategy behind wanting to stay with the group.
Definitely not. I mean, that all stems. Oh, that was another thing. Is the Guidos mentioned last week? Oh, it was because of something that happened in India. That it actually wasn't. That was that big blow up in India was with Kevin and Drew. And I remember, I think Kevin talked with you guys about it on the episode that you guys talked about. We had a big blowout with them, but it wasn't with Frank and Margarita. The Frank and Margarita animosity all went back to when we had the alliance in the first couple legs. The quick story on what happened there was, if you guys remember, I think it was leg 3, we had to go to La Grande Rue in Paris. It was down the Champs-Élysées. And we left together because we were like 4 minutes apart. So we were going to go down to that. And while we were going down the Champs-Élysées, we were walking. We decided it wasn't going to be there fast enough. So we decided to take a cab. So when we went to get in the cab, we had to get 2 of them, of course, for the 2 different teams. The cops stopped Frank and Margarita because of filming. And Rob and I's thought was, if we all wait here, we're gonna have to get 2 cabs, and there was a line for cabs, right? Then we're gonna have to get in 2 cabs. So we thought, let's just get down there. Production will figure this out, and they'll get down there behind us. Well, Frank thought that we were, and we learned this watching the show. He thought we were trying to ditch them, and we really weren't. We just were trying to get down there, and that's why, if you guys remember later in that episode, we told them where to get off early because we had figured that out, and they weren't being friendly, and we realized there was something off at that point, but. Since then, we knew, I won't say we didn't like each other. We had no problems with them, but they didn't like us after that. And so I think that was just Frank projecting from what had happened earlier. And obviously when we were working together, you could say we're following them. Sure, they were following us. We were working together in an alliance. So when we watched the episode, the finale, we were really surprised by the whole, they follow us all the time. We're like, really? I can't think of anything since those early episodes where we were even close together and where we finished legs and so forth. So no, it wasn't strategy. All that was let's see if they have a light.
Right. I mean, you're all going to the same place ultimately. So there's got to be a pecking order of who's behind who and everything else. So I didn't think you guys were following at all.
It made for good TV. He was angry at us.
Totally.
People like the drama, no matter if it's true or not. So
right.
Yeah.
All right, so you got Frank and Margarita heading out right behind them. Just heading. It's an easy walk. It said it was like a half a mile, so it couldn't have taken that long. You had about 4 hours to do it, so plenty of time.
Yeah.
Let's see. So they followed us, of course. They followed us, Frank, again. Frank and Margarita arrive right behind them, Rob and Brennan, but they both got to wait, and they decide to just camp out in the cold until it opens.
Yep. And that's what we were going to do, but they did end up letting us inside the that place that they called the Takosha Lodge. So we were hanging out. They actually had, they had some food and some orange juice. It was actually a nice little time to. Well, we were plenty warm in our Alaskan hut, but yeah, we just chilled in there for a little while till it was time to do the detour.
That was the 4 of you together in the same hut, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
yep.
Did you guys chat it up?
We did. It's funny because as much as there was some of that, I mean, I won't say Frank talking behind our backs, because we all know we do interviews during the race. It's not behind our backs. It's just, however it goes. But in the huts and stuff like that, no big deal at all. And as a matter of fact, when we were in China, I think you guys asked if it was the last leg about how come we didn't go right to the Temple of Heaven Park and camp right outside. We decided to go back to our hotel.
Yep.
We knew we'd be able to get up like 3 or 4 hours early, and we knew our only competition was Frank and Margarita. So either we're 1-2 or 2-1 when we get there. So it was early enough. This was like the only time we did any kind of detour, we'll call it, not a race detour, but the 4 of us, we went out to a club. We went in and like hung out, and we got a beer and had some drinks together, and yeah.
Wow.
So
That's cool.
it was super cool.
That's why he was bitchy. He was hungover.
Right. we got him drunk. That was definitely part of our strategy.
That's how you do it.
That's
But no, so we were chummy in the cabins and stuff like that. So I thought, everything seemed fine to us.
Yeah. You guys seem super excited at this point, and then we find out that Margarita has been powering through, and she's been sick 3 separate times on this trip. They didn't really highlight that too much on the race up until this point, unless it wasn't that bad.
Well, they were already starting their excuses. Just saying. They were out of it from the final 3 to start. Those 2 were out of it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, hey, Frank and Margarita and sorry, my kid was slamming on my door. Rob and Brennan, Frank and Margarita get the detour clue, and then it's dog power versus horsepower. Now both choices take you to the same place. To get your 4x4s where you just got to drive that 4x4 self-drive. After this, dog power, the teams travel 11 miles on a dog sled. Horsepower, the teams travel 30 miles on a snowmobile. It seemed like a no-brainer to me, but both teams chose dog power here. Joey, Maya, what are you guys choosing?
Dog. They're going right there, shorter way. Yeah.
Dog?
I would have done snowmobile because
I'm sorry. Yeah. What she said.
She won.
I know
Just do
it's
what she does.
longer, but I try, at least the way like we kind of ran the race. If we didn't have to deal with animals, we chose not to deal with animals. But again, this is season 1, so we were able to watch 24 seasons to know that for ourselves. But would have done snowmobile. Although in Italy, when we were in Italy, I had to drive a go-kart that actually broke down. So you can't always win with machinery either. And I had to go back down the hill and do it again because my go-kart was totally kaput. It literally stalled on me, like couldn't move anymore. So I would have done a snowmobile though, personally.
I'm sorry, I was reading something in the chat about Justin's pants. I definitely, because having lived in Alaska for a few years, and I'm a pretty avid, I don't want to brag or anything. So, I know how to snowmobile and I can do it very well. I don't know what they had for snowmobiles. I also did some dog mushing up there, but nothing anywhere close to. And I also know the dogs, even though they're great at they're sometimes they just stop for whatever reason. And it's funny because with the dog sleds, if one dog isn't feeling well, the rest of them know that and they just stop. They shut it down. They can feel one of the dogs ain't pulling the right. And with a snowmobile, you can just blast and you can get through 30 miles very quickly if you know what you're doing.
All right. Well, my answer depends on the answer to this question. Did you know that one was 10 miles and one was 30 miles?
We did know that.
Okay. So
go ahead and
math?
answer, and then I'll explain.
Okay.
Give your answer, and then I'll explain our thinking on why we did the dogs.
For me, it would be simple math. A dog can run, 10, 15 miles in an hour? We got to go 10 miles. It's going to take about an hour at a fast-paced 45 minutes. If I'm traveling 30 miles on something that can go 60 miles an hour or even 30 miles an hour with a slow, and I can control it and I don't have to worry about me or my partner, 2 separate dog sleds, one of them potentially having issues, there's zero chance I'm letting an animal decide if I'm winning or losing. That was one of our rules. We're never letting an animal decide. So there was zero chance we're doing the dogs. As fun as it looked, how did you pick dogs or why did you pick dogs?
So a couple things, I guess. Maya makes a good point. Well, and you kind of said the same thing there, Justin, at the end. Because it was the first season, and we had already done things with animals, obviously, but there hadn't been any huge animal debacles like there haven't been in other seasons of race. That wasn't part of our thinking. But what you just said, Justin, was exactly what we did. We did the math. The one thing that was not read on the clue was there was a speed limit to the snowmobiles.
Oh.
So I grew up in upstate New York with tons of snow. Rob grew up in Minneapolis with tons of snow. We both had snowmobiled a lot. Our first instinct was to take the snowmobiles. We did the math and thought it's going to take longer. And we also realized that even though the dogs might be difficult, a lot of times the more difficult task is the one that ends up getting you there faster if you do it properly. So that's why we chose the dogs.
It looked like someone who was dragging their brake, their foot brake.
So what I think, this is just my guess, I think production knew which were the slower dogs and they put them up front. And so when we ran out to grab the clues, Frank and Margarita, just wherever we all were, they ended up a little closer and they jumped on the ones out front, which is smart, obviously, but turns out, production makes the slower ones up front. And that's why we were able to eventually pass them, which for whatever reason, passing them on the dog sleds was one of my favorite parts of the race.
Oh, it was awesome.
It was awesome. It was exhilarating. Like we're stuck behind them, and we are riding our brakes, and we're keeping it slow. And finally, we got this chance, and my dogs went out, and I did. The other thing is you hear mush, but I don't know what they respond to. So I was yelling every mush, go, whoa, and that was pretty cool. But that's why we went with the dogs.
Yeah. Do you remember what the speed limit of the most snowmobiles were?
I don't remember what it was.
80.
But no, yeah, then we would have done the snowmobile. I don't remember what it was, but math wasn't good because 30 miles, it had to be below 30 miles an hour. So we knew it would be over an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that changed everything.
Interesting.
Definitely changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's a speed limit, speed limits suck, especially in those things. It's like a jet ski. It's hard to control the speed limit at a certain point. It's just like you're cruising. It's like you got to keep cruising, or the snow is too heavy and you're sinking. I don't know, too light. I grew up in the Bronx.
All the snow is black there.
Or yellow. So eventually, Rob and Brennan see a little opening and take it after getting slow and just waiting on big 6'2", 6'3" dude getting dragged by these slow dogs. Finally see their chance. They take it, get past them. You guys seem to think that you got a 15-minute lead. How much of a lead do you think you really had?
I think it was under 10, but probably close to 10, because when we get to the next task, the roadblock, for me to change, do the roadblock, get back out, they showed up. It was probably just under 10 minutes later.
Okay, so it was closer than you thought.
Yeah.
We can go ahead. We can go to the roadblock where you jump in. You knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. He was so excited, jumped in, jumped out, forgot the clue.
That one looks so good on TV. Here's my explanation and excuse. I just never saw the clue over there. They were very adamant in the clue about you have to submerge your head. So I was more focused on getting my head underwater. And I really just thought I'm going to jump in, submerge my head, jump back out, and somebody's going to hand me the clue. And that's when I jumped out and there's nobody there. And I hear Rob yell. And of course, you guys could never do that nowadays because it basically helped me. He yelled, the clue's on the other side. And that's why you see me turn around and go, ah! Then I had to jump back in. That's what happened.
It's a great moment, though. You just got to jump in and duck your head because it's so cold. You can only do it for a second, but you still had to go back, which is which is good because it gave them a little more time to catch up, to make it a little closer, a little more dramatic, since there was no third team that really pushed the issue.
Right.
I liked how the editing at least made it look close. We'll get to how really close everything was. Yeah. All right. So after getting that, it really wasn't that difficult of a task. It was just something visual, something, that polar bear plunge, I guess, that most people know about what goes on in Alaska. I don't know. It was fun to watch, but nothing that one team can pass another team, which is pretty much this whole episode's theme. Really,
we had a lot of that for sure, which was frustrating to us a lot of times because, like, I know you guys have asked a few different teams about the sewers in Paris. To me, that was like the dumbest task. You go down there, you had a rope to hold on to, and you just kind of led yourself through from one end to the other. They got some good shots, but we're not going to pass anybody. And that was the very first time we weren't in the top 3. We get there and there's all these other teams waiting, and we were so frantic. And I'm like, okay, now I can. I'm 29 years old. I can run. I'm going to pass some people. And nope, you just sit there and go through it. So our season had a lot of those, as you call them, linear legs.
Yeah. It's a little frustrating, especially when you're thinking of it as a racer standpoint, and you're like, damn, I know I could do this so much faster. Just let me go. There's nothing you could do. And it wasn't that difficult. Now, if you had to go through a maze and figure your way out, that would be something where it would got a lot more interesting, where teams can split up, but it was follow a rope.
Yep.
And here, it's pretty simple. You find out you're going to New York City, Vincent Daniels Square, and you just run and head to the airport. Frank gets his clue, and that's when everything changes. Him and Margarita are super confident, super stoked, and their whole attitude on this leg changes.
Totally changes.
That's cost them the win, hands down.
Yep.
Especially when I show you the map of the decision he decided to make as a New Yorker.
Stop it.
Oh, you're right, Justin. That's interesting because all my New Yorker friends were like, "What the hell was he thinking?"
I'll show. Listen, as a New Yorker, I know he's like, I'm like, why would you do that? And then I pulled it up on the map, and I was like, holy, what? Really? Why would you do it? We're gonna get to that decision later. The confidence he had it killed it. It killed their chances. They were too confident. So Frank and Mark.
Don't fuck with it. If it works, don't fix it.
I hit the mute button.
All right, good.
It was like 2 weeks in a row he's gonna jump out of the window. So they figure out they're going to Queens. They get cocky, a little confident, as they should a little bit. I mean, it's not just their home city, it's their hometown. Like, I didn't go to the Bronx. I went to New York, to an island I've never been to, and I made a mistake. But they went to their hometown 10 blocks away from where they used to live, seeing buildings, and
I grew up right there. Yeah.
My daughter's 10 blocks away.
I can understand their confidence, and you're like, oh, we got to step it up. And I think that's what gave you guys the edge to give you the win, is that you stepped on the gas, and they just said,
we got this.
Yeah.
Look at Maya. We're right there, you and I. Just right there. We should hold hands.
Virtual COVID.
Hey, Justin, if you're going to fangirl Brennan, I'm going to fangirl Maya.
You should.
You've been doing it for the last half hour.
They got two legends.
Joey, I love all the fanboying you've been doing on some of the single ladies from my season.
Oh well, wait a minute. Wasn't there some rumors about you there, sir? After the race?
I don't know if there was rumors.
I dated Emily from the mother-daughter team. Yeah.
Right.
Oh wow.
Lucky. Yeah. I know a guy dream.
Nice. She was what, 18 when she was on the race? No.
pretty. She was she was 21. Like I think she turned 21 like a few weeks before you go, and that was I don't know what it is nowadays, but that was the cutoff age. Like she barely made the cut. So yeah, I was 29, she was 21. So nowadays 8 years, no big deal. At that time, yeah, I was probably a little old for her.
You're fine. You're fine.
I met her mom early though.
He's a nice boy. He's got $1 million. He's going places.
He's got $272 after taxes and split with his partner.
Once he's like good looking lawyers, you can have my daughter. No, you guys did. No, you guys were great. You guys played in a way that if a mother was watching, they wouldn't just sold something on eBay. a mother was watching, there wouldn't be any reason that she would say, "I don't want them dating my daughter."
I had to listen to my mother about the boys. That's what I've been calling you guys. She's
The
like,
boys.
oh, they're so handsome. Aren't they handsome? I'm like, I don't fucking know. Maybe. You see that Emily though? She's probably in her apartment watching right now.
Here's the funny thing. I was doing the math last week when you guys were talking to the Guidos. Rob and I are pretty much now the age that the Guidos were when they were on the race.
Wow.
So things have changed a little bit.
Wow.
Gotta hand it to those guys. They still look good though.
They look amazing.
Like you and I, of course.
They
Could
do.
you- Brennan, could you imagine running the race for the first time right now? I mean, of course, not in COVID time, but
Right. Yeah. It would definitely be a different experience for sure. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean,
How old are you now?
49.
Oh, I'm still fucking older than you. Shit.
I know
It's
you just
very
turned
rare
50,
that I'm
so-
not the oldest.
Yes. Yeah, like the whole season. I don't know. Our season.
You're the old, yeah, you were the old man.
Growing
The
old
old-
is inevitable. Growing up is an option.
That's true. All right, so Frank gets the clue. All right, they're worried about Frank and Margarita will win, so Rob and Brennan pull over to a gas station to buy a local's cell phone, offering $300, arguing about $1 on the last leg, now willing to give up $300 for a phone. Rob promises he'll mail it back. Will he? We already found out.
Not for a phone, not for a phone for $1 million. It wasn't. The phone was just an asset to get to the $1 million.
Yeah.
So $300 at that point is like, what's 300 when you're going to have $1 million potentially?
Absolutely.
Well, and our thinking then was we had done a really good job saving money because we didn't tip our cabbies. So. But we did not on that first leg, as everybody saw on TV. We did after that, but not much. We were stingy.
Did you ask for a dollar back like Frank did?
Well, we asked for every dollar back we could. There were times. So well, I was going to talk about the phone. Let me just tell you guys one thing, because you always often say it's the first season. Well, so we had watched, or season 2 of Survivor was on the air when we left on race. And of course, the big thing on Survivor back then was they didn't eat much. Nowadays it's more about the strategy. It's not about their surviving. So they had asked us questions during casting about, well, what are you going to do when you're stuck in Bangladesh and you don't have any food or any money? And so we thought the money and food thing would be way harder than it was. So when we got to JFK, after not tipping our cabbie, we went to the food court and stood there and waited for people to throw their food away. And we couldn't stoop so low as to eat like half-eaten food off their trays, but like we found someone throwing away a Sbarro like salad that they hadn't touched, and we took that from them in a roll. And like we're like, that's how hard we were going at the beginning, trying to save money and eat food. So we didn't know how difficult it was going to be for that stuff. So we had saved $1,000 by the last leg. That's how much money we had. So that's why we didn't mind throwing $300. We just figured we had to use that money for some kind of advantage. So that's what we did.
Wow.
I thought on our season that we had to give, when you finish the leg, you got to give everything back. I thought we had to give the money back. So when we were in Panama, we went, I think, 4 blocks from where she was climbing the thing to the little rainforest. And I think it was like $3. I had a $100 bill, and I'm like, we got to give it back anyway. Here. And just gave it to him.
Man.
And then my whole thing was I wanted to have a beer in every country. And Tara was like, you can't spend money on beer. She said, we can't even spend it on food. I'm like, I got this. So I walk up to the bar in the airport, and I'm just sitting there, and the lady comes up, oh, can I help you? I'm like, I wish. I'm really hungry. I've been stuck in this airport for 2 days. I do anything for like is there any like a beer or something that someone didn't finish, or is there a sandwich, a messed up order? And she's like, honey, hold on, I got this for you, nice cold beer. And I said, and so I go walking back with a beer and a sandwich, and everyone's sitting around in those little sewing circle groups like, oh, what's up, guys? What's going on? Like, this idiot's spending all his money. And I'm like, all right.
That's
a good strategy to make him think you did.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking that. I was just like, hey, I got a free sandwich.
That's awesome.
We in our season, our very first international plane ride, I guess we were going to the U.S. Virgin Islands. We didn't know, well, we knew it was a live start, but we didn't know that people kind of knew who we were at that point. Because Amy and I were just grad students, so we didn't know that people could figure out who we were at that point. But we were on our plane, and we were sitting next to a mom and her 2 kids, and the kids weren't touching their airplane meal, and so we basically started asking, like, are you guys gonna eat that? we had our fair share of airplane meals from like other people. I'm not saying that's the way to go.
Did you know on international flights they'll just give you a second meal?
We couldn't ask for one. There was something in the rules with the race that we couldn't.
Oh, really? I was like, can I get another one?
There was something about that we had to like sneak it, basically. There was something about that.
Wow.
But the kids didn't touch the meal. But like now, like COVID, I probably wouldn't do it again. But like
It was like
we ate it. Like, no, I'm not lying. We ate a lot of meals that weren't ours. So I get it. Except I don't know if I would have gone through the trash.
No.
Brennan gets the food award.
Well, no, we didn't go through the trash. We waited as people threw their food away. We like literally stood by the garbage can as people brought it up. Yeah.
I just would like to see like your little feet kicking out. I got a salad. It's half eaten.
And they just got finished watching season 1 of Survivor. Like, people, eating all sorts of stuff. So come on, eating from the trash was nothing for $1 million.
Right, exactly.
But could you imagine it's one of the airports that like they let you film, and then there's these 2 good-looking, fit American guys with a camera crew begging for food. They're like, what the heck is going on?
Well, and actually, you're right, Joey. They would not let us film there, so they didn't. Right. The crew, but the crew, of course, is still with us, and they were super disappointed that they could not film that.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Okay. Rob promised to mail it back, and he did. He books the flight from Anchorage to Newark via Seattle. After booking the flight, Rob and Brennan mull over if they want to book the remaining 8 seats on the flight. And this is where the conundrums come in. The conscience kicks in, because now, obviously, we can't do that. Joey?
Right.
I would have never done it.
Maya?
Nope.
Justin? Justin would have. Diana, 0 chance.
Right.
So we probably wouldn't have.
I would have been. I guess I was you, Justin, because I was the one that was leaning towards it. So in the end, I don't think it would have mattered. We were only allowed to book 1 flight. We couldn't have booked more. What we were going to try and do was reserve versus book. Like it's like you can call up and say, "Oh, we want to reserve this flight." Like I don't know if you do it for 24 hours. And of course, this is pre 9/11, so things were different back then. We wanted to try and reserve, so if they called, like they were kind of in limbo, those seats. I don't know if it would have done anything. It probably wouldn't have, but at least it was just an idea because we had the cell phone and we thought maybe we can do this. And I was leaning more towards doing it. Rob was the one that didn't want to, and obviously we didn't end up doing it. But I love the fact that we did it because here's Frank making like, oh, I'm going to lead those lawyers the wrong way. And then it just made us look like good guys, even though I wanted to do it.
Yeah. He definitely, I could see the cockiness take over. It was super confidence, and I can understand. You have the reason to, but you still have to understand you're in the race. You got to have the mindset. You're still in the race. I have this edge, but I can't lose the thing that got me here, which is my drive, which I think is the drive changed.
Yep.
All right. So worried. Okay, they get $300. Meanwhile, Team Guido's going ice climbing.
Finally.
And then they go to the pit stop.
Right. Oh. Poor guys.
And then they just got to go to sleep. They're just stuck. I didn't think. I was like, maybe they could skip the pit stop and catch up. But it's mandatory. Pit stops are mandatory. Even in the first season. All right. So, Rob and Brennan, Frank and Margarita, both arrive at the airport. And this is where something you can't do now. Frank and Margarita went to different ticket counters. Booking different flights. Like going to 2 different counters. Like, you got to make a decision and see. Now, you can't be that far away from each other. Was that allowed back then?
So it wasn't. But I think they probably let us get away with a little bit more than they probably do, obviously now in the real later seasons. You had to be in sight of your camera crew. What we did do when we got to some of the airports where you weren't allowed to film, there he is.
Sorry.
Oh, hi, Charlie. Don't touch
Charlie,
the
you troublemaker.
Say hi, everybody.
Oh,
Who's that on your
Hey.
shirt? Who's that? No, you're the baby. Who's on your shirt? Say goodnight.
oh my gosh, so cute.
Oh my God. Say amazing.
Good night,
race.
Charlie.
Good night.
Night, Charlie.
Kiss.
Good night. Oh my gosh, he's adorable.
Thank you. Look at Diana. The camera's over here. She's like,
Hi, Diana.
they all said hi. It's
Hi,
Bun.
Diana.
The messy bun. The messy mom bun. Oh, my beautiful wife. Sorry about that. Sorry I cut you off, bro.
No, that's all right. That's he's always the good the special guest.
Will you put some pants on, please, Justin?
The rugby shorts.
Sure they are.
Basketball shorts. I just got long nuts. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
How do I follow that up? So what we were allowed to do, we probably aren't now, when we got to some of the airports where they weren't allowed to film, and obviously they were there, we would split up, and one teammate would take our cameraman and the other would take our sound man because they weren't filming us anyway. So we had to have a crew member with us, and we did that quite often. So even though they were filming, maybe they kind of let them get away with that. Maybe that's why Margarita went to a different counter. But I think the rule was generally the same. We just kind of skirted the rules some back on our season because you did have to stay within sight. And I don't remember exactly what the rule was, but definitely within sight of your crew. And you had to wait for them if you were running ahead of them and all that kind of stuff.
And this is where Rob attempts to get the attendant to use their middle names rather than using their real full names. So Frank and Margarita can't see what's going on. And then ask the lady to put them in the front of the plane on the second flight, which is the smart thing to do. Who cares about the first flight? Gets a second flight. Is this something that you guys were doing along the whole race? Is this something you figured out? Because, I mean, obviously we know now how crucial being up front in the plane can make a difference.
Yeah.
Is that something you guys did throughout the race or just kind of figured it out?
We figured it out pretty quickly. We definitely didn't do it on the first flight. Like in South Africa, it's just like, hey, we got a flight to get on. Let's get on.
Mhm.
But you realize it pretty quickly when, as you know, or everybody listening knows, when you get on when you land and you get to the gate and everybody stands up at the same time and you're standing there waiting and watching people getting their bags off and you're frustrated and you can't move. So we figured it out pretty quickly. The other part, the last name, middle name thing. So once again, this is pre 9/11. You were allowed to ask who's on the flight. You could be like, oh, is so-and-so on this flight? And they'd say, oh yeah, so-and-so is on this flight. And we definitely did that to find out if other teams were on some of our flights. So that's why we wanted to try to do that. So if they said, oh, is there anyone named Swain on the flight? Then they'd say, oh, no, we don't see it. And so I still don't think they let us do that, but they at least contemplated it. So, nowadays, if you tried it and you didn't have your official name, they'd immediately say no. I mean, hell no, you can't do that.
Yeah,
So that was our thinking.
I didn't even know that you could ever do that.
The edit to that, I was looking at that going, and then it showed Frank and Margarita getting that same flight. And I was like, did the boys just screw themselves by asking that extra question? Because they were right next to you getting the tickets. And I was like, if they just screw themselves off this flight, I'm going to jump out the window.
No, I don't. I don't think so.
Oh, I got to mute.
Yeah, right there.
I'm trying to keep it quiet in the background, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, so there's lots of back and forth here with Frank and Margarita being really confident. Rob and Brennan still in game mode. even asking for the special boarding. Like, can we get on a little bit early? Like, they're still thinking about all the little things that they could do to win. And I think Frank and Margarita are stopping all of these little things that they've been doing throughout the race to stay up top. And it's starting to add up. Like, specifically went and looked for a book from New York City that had that park in it. I doubt any book would have that park, but
no book had it.
The mindset, though, was still race mode. Did you find anything in those books that helped you?
We didn't. That's a good question. If anything else. No, I mean, we got the books and we read. So it's funny. Last week, I know the Guidos mentioned getting their Chinese. They had
two translation books
that had the translations in the back and all that. So on leg 4, when we were on the train in Tunisia, we met a couple traveling from England, and they were heading home, and they had a Tunisia Lonely Planet guidebook, and they gave it to us.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, oh, we need this every leg. So we bought a guidebook in every country we went to. And by the time we got to China, we had enough money. We bought a guidebook and we bought a translation book. So we did the South Gate as well. When we went to the gate, we found South in China. So we've been doing that all along.
Okay.
And so when we got to that and we tried to find the one for New York City, I think we read it, because what else are you going to do on a flight? We read the book as much as we could, but it didn't help us in any way. And we definitely did not find anything with Vincent Daniel Square in it.
Yeah, that's so obscure. I didn't know what the hell that was, but I'm not from Queens. Maybe they knew because they were from Queens, but obviously it didn't make too much of a difference. It wasn't that difficult for people to find, unless you made a stupid decision and gave your cab driver directions to go so far out of the way. All right, so that could have been a big move with me. At least trying to pick up a little bit more information about the place that you're going. It's always smart. All right. Frank and Margarita waiting for the second flight. That's when Rob and Brennan went to the bookstore. Again, Rob and Brennan were going to the bookstore on the second flight. They're just chilling. There's lots of back and forth. Okay. Frank says it would totally change our lives. I mean, I think Rob and Brennan lives are pretty straight. They live in penthouse in Hollywood. I don't know. I feel like we have so much more riding on it. Robin Brennan. Living in penthouse in Hollywood must be nice. No, you guys were already pretty well established or had very good careers. Was the money the motivating factor?
The money was definitely not the motivating factor. The adventure was.
Because it's first season. This is incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a quote on the DVD extras we did an interview. I said something like, take the cameras away, take the money away, take the fame we had afterwards away, all that away, and I'd do The Amazing Race again in a heartbeat, because it's all about the experience. And we all know what a life-changing experience it was. And at least for me, and I would guess it is for all of you as well, yeah, it's cool being on TV. We all liked that. That was life-changing as well. But I think the experience for me and what kind of the trajectory my life went, the experience changed my life more than being on television did.
Agree.
And so, yeah.
Agree.
So the money wasn't. Now, at the same time, let's go back to what Frank said. I mean, Rob was 27. I was 29. We're only two and 3 years out of law school. It's not like we were, rich. We were living together in a penthouse because we didn't have enough money to afford it alone. We were roommates. So we were living in a nice place. Yeah. But, still, you got school debt. You're just kind of starting things off. And so did they have more to lose? Of course. They were trying to figure out whether they'd get back together. They had a daughter. But
before you continue, I never want anybody to feel bad about doing well in life. That's why I don't give the Guidos shit. Like, I know they were rich before they went on the show. They didn't need this money. Like, but I never brought that up because who cares? Yeah. Like, you worked hard for it. It's your life. Like, that doesn't make you less worthy.
Dude, you'd be surprised. I had people email me or send messages after the race, like, do the right thing. You should send Frank and Margarita some money. Like, there are people, they definitely kind of not put us down, but like made us feel bad because we're the rich lawyers that won the race, and the estranged couple who's getting back together with the daughter didn't win. So I'm like, oh, well, sorry.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's the same thing with like diehard fans of the show who say they want regular people, like their favorite team is the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are professional athletes, world-class athletes who don't need the money, who are well established, the best at what they do. But what? They're just country boys? No, they're professional athletes. But they'll get mad at somebody else and be like, "Oh, he was a lawyer." Like,
I tell you what, I've got a theory for why all the fans always say they want regular people. Because every one of those fans has applied to be on the show every season, and they're regular people. So when there's not a regular person season, they know they've got one less shot. I think that's why they all want the regular people.
That's a good.
I think
that's a good synopsis too.
On our season, when people were like they want regular people, we're like, how much regular can you get than a student? We're students,
right?
Like, who cares what we're studying? All of us were once a student. Like, how much regular can you possibly get? It's like, really, people. We did a freaking casting call to get on our season. Like, it's pretty regular.
Everybody's a regular person. Some people just are doing better in life than other people, and that's life. You're upset with where you are and jealous with where somebody else is. I get it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make somebody less worthy, ever, of winning.
Back to the original thing.
Sorry.
When I believe it was Brennan who said, our goal was to get into the final three. If we felt, that was you, right, Brennan?
Yes.
So when you said that, that was my thing, because I wasn't a fan of the show. When they told me what it was, it sounded exciting. I was like, you know what? If I get to the final three, I'm good. This is going to be an incredible experience. I didn't get knocked out. I didn't make any stupid mistakes. Would the money be great? Yeah. But when you look at it, it's not $1 million. Like I just joked around, especially if you're not a couple. You guys aren't a couple. Me and Tara weren't a couple. Maya, no couple. It's 500 grand, then it's taxed. Is it life changing? I believe Scott, like Scotty, who won my season, he bought himself, gave his parents a nice trip, got himself, put a nice down payment on a house because he never owned a house. He was always skipping around doing jobs. And he bought really expensive pans. He really wanted kitchen pans. That was the thing. Is it life changing? No, it's life, makes a little bit of a difference. But the experience, like you said, Brennan, in a second I would do it again for for no money. And the people who emailed you and sent you letters, what it was, of course they don't say second place does get something. It's a considerable drop off.
It's 25,000. Stop it. It's
8,500 in my condition, in my shop. No, 8,200.
85.
Split it in tax.
Oh
yeah.
Wow.
When there was a time way back when I forget what show someone was from. They were trying to start a reality contestant union so they'd pay us more money.
Jesus Christ.
That's such bullshit.
Like they have a Screen Actors Guild, and then they make these reality shows. They don't have to pay us anything.
Well, we all have IMDb's now, so that's got to be worth something. BDB, I don't even know how to say it.
Although I understand what you were saying, Joey, it would change some people's lives because some people don't have the basics, and that would give people the basics in life and change their lives. Like the dancers from my season. He's living on somebody's house. Changing his life is getting an apartment and paying that rent for a year. That's life changing.
You're 100% right.
For most people, it's not going to change their life. But some people get on the show because their story is this money is literally going to change their life. Right. I get that, but it doesn't make somebody more deserving.
Right. It changes, like for me, it changed my outlook in various ways. Like I was in grad school. Like I didn't have student loans. I just was like, oh, now I have this lump sum of money that I can put away for my future. So it changed my outlook in terms of like, now I'm able to, not worry about as much about like, how am I going to buy that house in the future? Because I've got this money tucked away now. Okay. So it changed my mindset more than anything. But, for Amy and I going on the race as like two female scientists, that was so much more meaningful than the money itself. And like what we've been able to do for like the face of food science. And, people look at us now as like, oh my gosh, like you can be an ice cream scientist or you can be a candy scientist. It's like, oh my gosh. But like that for me, as well as the race, I mean, you all saw me race, like I just wanted to have a good time. Like, yes, I wanted to win, but I really wanted to have a good time. And that's what it was. So yes, I would do it again, just like all of us here, without a doubt.
Here's the pitch that you need to be pitching. It's Wilma Wonka. Like, get like a Willy Wonka female version. They've redone it. Now let's do it with the female Willy Wonka, who's actually a food scientist or a candy scientist, an ice cream scientist.
Did you see what they did to Ghostbusters? Can we just leave it alone?
Yes, they made it better.
Yeah. Oceans 6 or 8 or whatever.
Oceans 8 made it better.
Yeah.
Bigger, faster, more explosions. All right. So
booms.
Joe and Bill are ready to leave to start the final leg. They get their snowshoes on.
Rob and Brennan celebrating in the Big Apple.
And then Bill gives the big Bill Clinton speech and then stops for some coffee. I guess he didn't know what was going to happen with the whole Bill Clinton thing. Waiting at the Takosha Lodge to open, Joe and Bill go to a near cabin. Brennan says the flight to New York is very surreal. We know New York City is the end. I'm nervous, but there's no way we're going to be able to take Frank and Margarita in their home borough of Queens, knowing that's where we need to go. And then it cuts to Frank. If I can make an observation, they're scared. They're very scared. I can see it in their eyes. Editing makes it seem like it's real.
Yeah.
Was there fear in those eyes?
I mean, maybe fear might be a little bit of a strong term, but we definitely knew two teams. They live in Queens or are from Queens. We knew we were probably the underdogs, but at the same time, just like you said before, Justin, we also knew we're probably going to have to take a cab. You know that it's all more about still staying focused and running the race. If it's like, I think Rob made the joke when we were looking for the guidebook, he said something like, why can't this thing end in Hollywood? So we knew even if it ended in Hollywood, doesn't mean we're going to win. I mean, There's LA traffic. Who knows what task we're going to have to do. We had already thought about the fact that they might do some kind of memory task, because we really thought, we knew we had an advantage because we were the two young guys if it was going to be like a foot race or something like that. So we assumed they would throw something in there that was going to be an equalizer or something that was more mental, which they didn't end up doing. And obviously they started doing it in later seasons. But so we knew that anything can happen, even if it's at their home.
if we had our finale in Boston and Tara said, we got this, I'm from Connecticut, you're from Charlestown, blah, 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 I would have looked at her and said, we have been gone a month. In Boston, the same as in New York, one construction project will end an entire day for somebody as far as rerouting traffic. Just one little hole in the ground. And that's the mentality Frank should have said, if we're on foot, we can do this. And let's just say he was so goddamn cocky and it just and he was focusing that cockiness on the boys. He was just saying, they're scared because we live here. And I was like, you guys got to lose. Like, this is awesome.
Well, I think that fear was healthy, and I think that it was justified. You should be scared. You're going to a final leg with somebody who's been up to the top with you most of the time, and this is their hometown. But that fear kept you guys going, and that's going to ultimately pay off.
Yep.
All right, let's get to it. Frank, Margarita, Rob, and Brennan arrive in Newark, pushing one another, running through the airport. This is when it starts. People love this part. They love watching airport drama. They love watching the racing through the airports. One thing that I thought was a mistake, I don't know. You get out of the airport, you go to the taxi queue, wait in line for a taxi, go like a taxi stand, and they go right to the gypsy stand. What was the mindset about not going right to a cab but going to a stand?
So there was no line. It was like 5 a.m. This is a super early flight. There was no line. We just went to the cab stand because we knew there was someone running it and they could put us in the right car. I think what ended up happening was Rob ran to the taxi stand and I actually just ran to the closest taxi and just kind of got in the back seat and started talking to him. And then Rob came over, we jumped in. We were not it was probably 30 seconds from the time we got to that area, and we're in the back of the cab ready to go.
Okay. And Anthony L., the 7 train ride had nothing to do with why they lost. I'll tell you in a second why they lost. Frank and Margarita, okay. I was like super smart. Like they get into the cab. The cab driver doesn't seem to know what's going on. They're smart enough to try to, like, this is crucial. We need a good cab driver. Season 1, they're smart enough to get a new cab, although it costs them a little bit. But I thought it was really smart of them grabbing a gypsy cab. Gypsy cab drivers in New York are known to break the rules a lot more than regular cab drivers because they're usually like more illegal. So like somebody from the street be like, I'll grab a gypsy cab. I'll say, I'll give you $200-$300. That dude is running red lights. Like, so I like that mindset, but this is what happens. Rob and Brennan don't know where they're going, so they trust the cab driver. Get me there. Frank and Margarita, they know a little too much. Well, let's pull up the videotape. Here it is. It's going to take up the whole screen here. All right. Can you guys see this? I don't know if you could see this. I could share my screen if they need to. But the ride...
Look at Maya's picture. Sorry.
The ride... That's funny. That Rob and Brennan took was 19... Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. Here it is. Here. And this is the ride Rob and Brennan took. Sorry, this actually went here. And this is the ride Frank and Margarita took.
Oh, wait, I'm in the wrong thing.
Actually, no, it's not.
What?
So that's
I've never seen this. So I got my
this is the
reading
ride.
on. I just opened up YouTube because I've just been doing, our call. And,
Gotcha.
I've got it on the screen there.
That's
right.
actually,
I like it. This is
the blue one. The blue one is the boys.
This is what the boys took, and then this is not Frank and Margarita. That changed. Frank and Margarita went up here. Sorry, this changed because of traffic. It's not even giving this as an option. Frank and Margarita went up here. They went up to the George Washington Bridge. I have the distance. 33 miles. Frank and Margarita went 33 miles. Rob and Brennan went 22 miles. And it was 5 in the morning. No traffic.
No traffic.
No traffic.
So they went
5 in the morning on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So they went straight. Look, from here, the straightest point, they went all the way up to the Bronx to avoid Manhattan traffic that wasn't there. All the way down from the Bronx, all the way down here and then over. Just to avoid Manhattan, which I'm sure at 5 in the morning, there's no traffic. So,
on a Sunday, not 5 in the morning on a Thursday.
You could see the sun coming up, right? You could tell it was early.
That was absolutely bonkers to me for somebody from New York. Like, you're thinking it's rush hour traffic, you're doing something smart, cool. That's smart, rush hour traffic.
There's no rush hour 5 in the morning.
5 in the morning, 11 miles out of the way.
I would have ran that. Shit.
So that right there changed everything. I don't know how close it was at the end. I'm sure we'll find out because we have a winner here. All right, let's finish this up so we can get to the good stuff. All right, so that's where the big oopsie happened. Frank immediately tells him all the directions. Go here, go there. Rob and Brendan get the next clue. Take the 7 train, which is right there. I was a little pissed off. Jump on that train, and it drops you off right where you need to go. Okay. Jump on the train. It's cool to go to Shea Stadium. Follow the flags to the Flushing Meadows Park. There's a lot of tennis tournaments and things that happen there. They get there, get their tickets, board the train. It leaves. Frank and Margarita get their tickets, jump on a train that's probably at that time in the morning about 15, maybe a half hour difference. I don't know that area too well. How long?
15 minutes probably.
Okay, about 15
They made
minutes.
it seem like an eternity, though, didn't they? The edit.
Well, here's where I'll explain what I mentioned before about the foot race. So I actually had thought to myself at that point, there's a good chance this could come down to a foot race. I felt confident we could win a foot race, but at the same time, that was I frankly kind of almost would have felt bad for Frank and Margarita. Like, who wants to lose $1 million? You've raced all around the world. You've done all this cool stuff. You've been all these cool places, and we run faster than you, which obviously happened in season 2.
Come on!
Yeah. Hey,
it's a great ending.
I didn't tell you who it was.
It was a great ending.
Right. So.
It is a close finish, we'll say. Yeah, it's a close finish. But it almost did. So as much as it seemed like they went so much farther, Justin, we got up there and the train came within a minute of us getting up on the platform. So we were lucky with that. And I know they edited it to make it look like they were coming up the stairs as the train was leaving. That's actually what happened. They were running up the stairs as the train pulled away. So it was that close to being a foot race.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn. That's the same thing that happened in my season with the cheerleaders. The only leg that they were leading, we literally got on a bus and just like this right past and just.
Brennan, did you see them come up the stairs? Because you must have gone right there.
No.
Okay.
No, we didn't
check the train, right?
Yeah. We walked the train to see if they were on there, and we didn't see them. But we didn't see them coming up. We just found that out later.
If you found them on the train, knowing that they know New York and they know that one train, there's going to be an exit at the train station at one end or the other, would you have stayed with them or left just to race them?
We would have stayed with them. We talked about that. And the reason we would have stayed with them is not necessarily to follow them, wasn't because they knew New York.
Right.
It was, we knew we could probably win the foot race. So let's stay right with them. Let's get off the train together. Let's make sure we're heading the right direction. And then let's get away.
Yeah.
And we actually did talk about that.
I would never feel bad about that. Like you said about feeling bad about a foot race, because what's in the name of the damn show?
Right.
Race. That would have been awesome.
Absolutely. And this is where the editing is brutal. It's like Frank and Margarita thinking they're winning the whole time, hugging, celebrating. Robin Brennan's still nervous, not sure. And Frank and Margarita running. Even after you guys win, they do the celebrating. You guys, cry, having a great time. Phil is talking without the microphone. He's like, has the microphone here, and he's yapping. So you can tell he had to redo it. He was so caught up in the moment celebrating. He had the microphone here. He was like, I might pull it up. It was funny. So that's kind of brutal because Frank and Margarita come, and that same cheering is going on, and they're like, oh my God, like believe in it. And then the realization when they see the shininess of how sweaty, glistening you guys are at the finish line, 2 hunky studs, and they stop running, and you could see the pissed face.
The defeat.
How far apart were you guys?
So it was about 15 minutes. Like we had time to. We ran to the finish line a couple times. Bert, I remember one time Bertram grabs. He's got a cameraman. He wants to get a shot of like just our feet running, like right behind us, and the guy's not doing it right. So Bertram grabs the camera from him, and Bertram's running behind us, and so we had time to do some of that fun kind of stuff. Remember, Bertram was 19 years younger back then. I'm sure he'd run behind you guys now still. The guy's a stud.
He's there.
Yeah, he's pretty amazing. So we had a little bit of time. The one thing I will say, so 2 things. One, it being the first season, just like you said, Frank and Margarita didn't know. Everyone claps when all the teams come in. And you didn't know that on the first season. You hear that cheering and you think, oh, we must have won. The second thing is it was actually more brutal than they edited it. So the way they edited it was they make it look like they stop about 20 yards from the finish line, and that's when they see us, and the music kind of changes, and that's when they grab each other's hands and, oh, we lost, but we're going to get to the finish line. They didn't. They turned around. This is what Frank's told us. They turned around, saw how obviously long the run was. There's no way we're catching them now. So they stopped and kind of waltzed in. You see Margarita hug, I think it's Margareta, somebody else. Mm-hmm. Frank, as he steps onto the platform, he sees us. and he turns around to Margarita, and Frank called Margarita Marge all the time. And he turns around and he goes, "Marge, we're second," as he was getting onto the platform. So they actually didn't know they were second place until they got onto the platform.
Whoa.
How did they not see you guys?
I think just because they're so excited, they're running down. There's all these teams there. They kind of put us towards the back of the platform. They just didn't see us.
Didn't Frank say Robin Brennan are here, or did they edit that back over?
That was the interview. That was their exit interview where he said that.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Holy shit.
Frank.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of brutal for them.
Oh, even worse.
Well, in my finale, we had a very similar setup in Chicago where we went right along the water and blah blah blah. They had the big thing, and we couldn't really see. We could see them off in the distance, and again with the clapping, and Brooke and Scott, we knew they were in front of us, and I think it happened with the traffic. It was 4th of July weekend in Chicago, so there was traffic everywhere. So like, wow, maybe we won, and we said, and Tara's like happy. I'm just spent. She grabs my hand. She's holding my hands, and I could see the orange on Scott. They always wore orange, and I went, and I was like pulling my hand away. I'm like, I don't want to hold hands right now. This sucks. We lost. So I kind of feel for Frank and Margarita, because when I watched it myself, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that feeling. That sucks.
Yeah, I think they took it hard. I felt bad. Even to when we screened our finale, we had to be in New York for the press that we had to do afterwards, and we were really lucky. Our season was very, very close. I can't remember if anybody else has talked about it or not. Well, I have heard people tell you guys that the working title for the show was the CBS Summer Global Adventure Series. So remember that Survivor 1 was on during the summer. And so our show was supposed to be on the summer of 2001. So when we left to film in March and April, it was supposed to air like in June. So you get back and like a month and a half later, it's going to be on TV. Well, because Survivor 2, which I mentioned before, was on the air while our season was airing, or while we were shooting, it was the number 1 show on TV. So proving for the first time reality television can work against scripted television. So they decided to hold our show for the fall. So we had to go from the beginning of April when the race finished until September. Obviously, season 32 now has far surpassed our record for how long they have to wait after filming. But at the time, we waited 5 or 6 months. And during that time, you don't have anybody else to talk to about it. So our season, everybody became very close. So everyone pretty much flew into New York City to be there for the finale. So we all got together in a conference room at the hotel, because that was back when everything had to be super secret. Like we couldn't even be in public or do any kind of interviews while we were still on the show. And the only team that didn't come to watch it was Frank and Margarita. And they just told us, they said, yeah, we kind of want to watch it on our own with our family. And I think everybody asked me, and Maya, you can probably attest to this as well. People always ask, well, how were you able to hold that secret that you won for so long? And I always tell people that wasn't difficult, because I knew my friends and family were going to get to watch every week. And actually, now that I think about it, the other two sitting here, you guys are on the Frank and Margarita side of things. So I knew my friends and family were going to get the payoff of watching me every week. And then in the end, they're going to get that payoff. And so it would have been much more difficult to, everybody's like, oh, you made it this week. You made it. You didn't get eliminated. Here you are. Yeah. You're in the finale. Second place.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what that's like.
Yeah. I wonder what it's like to be the favorite all season.
Awesome. I wonder what it's like to brag about being the best at the race and becoming it.
I know. Trust me.
Awesome.
I live with it. I watched the
race. Justin had hair at the beginning of the race.
All right, let's finish this off and get to the good stuff. We cut to the Guidos, who find out that their race is over and Rob and Brennan won. They're like, oh, that's great. And then they go on some dog ride.
I'm glad they won.
Glad they won. And then it cuts to Margarita, falling in love again. So happy. Frank, I say Rob and Brennan may have won $1 million, but I think I won so much more. I wonder what he thinks now.
Are they still together?
No, they're not.
Oh,
$1 million.
They were together for a while, though. They actually had a second daughter together after the race. So they were for a few years. Yeah.
Good for them.
You could tell that they were when they had sex on the race. We
all know the sex is good.
Right.
We all know that, clearly.
I love that storyline.
I'm so glad you watched this season.
Yeah,
Brennan.
I enjoyed watching. Yeah,
Thanks.
I'm glad.
That's awesome.
Rob comes with the classic. The things that we saw were unreal, and we won a game. That's fine, but I'll never be able to forget the things I saw. And I did it with my best friend, and there can't be anything better than that. How do you feel hearing something like that back afterwards? Like, are you guys really best friends? Did this make you closer?
It's a good question, and I've told Rob this before. At the time, we were super close. Obviously, we were roommates. We met working at the same law firm, and we had become very good friends over about the last 2 years. But I don't think, it sounds kind of weird to say this, but I don't think anyone had ever used the phrase "best friends" yet. So that was the first time I heard that. And so it kind of hit me like, all these years later, like I mentioned, I'm now the father of a son. He's definitely my best friend now. And so obviously it did bring us closer. And I would say he was my closest friend at the time, but we only had about 2 years of experience together. So I don't know if I would have called him my best friend at that time. So it was super cool to hear.
But again, you're also very young. So 2 years to a 27-year-old right out of law school, as compared to a 49-year-old with a family and everything else, is a completely different amount of time. So, but I was going to ask, where is he?
Yeah. So I told Justin I actually was trying to get him on. He had something going on. He wasn't able to make it. But yeah.
He's a little more elusive. He's like Robert De Niro,
A little more successful. Call it what it is.
I'm trying to keep my 15 minutes. He's not.
Brennan's winning quote: "The experiences that I had, the places that I went, the people that I met, the relationships that I've built, both with Rob and with other contestants. I hope will continue for the rest of our lives." Is this something that was happening during the race with you and?
It was. He hesitated.
It actually well, I mean, we met during the race. It wasn't actually. I had a girlfriend when I was in the race, and Emily had a boyfriend, and I think you talked about it with one of the. Oh yeah, I know you talked to Frank about it, about having kingfishers on the roof of the palace when we were in India. There was a pit stop we had that went for 60 hours, where it was like 2 extra days because of some production issues they were having. And we were down to 5 teams at that point, and everybody got to know each other really well. And I remember Emily and I played cards together, and we spent some time together, and we got to know each other pretty well. But like I mentioned, we went 5 months in between airing or shooting and airing. I think pretty quickly after the race, my girlfriend and I broke up. Emily and her boyfriend broke up. We all went on a trip to Vegas. There were there's some shenanigans amongst other teams in Vegas as well. But we started dating. We started dating not long before the show started airing. Is when it started. But here's what I will say: that interview, we did our exit interview in LA about 3 months after the show finished. So when I did say that, I was referring to Emily. And Kevin and I are super, super close too. So I was talking mainly about, I become good friends. Like I said, everyone in our season become close, but I was dating Emily, and I'd gone to visit Kevin a number of times in New York. We became really good friends. We're both Irish, and we just had a lot of stuff in common. And so, yeah, I mean, it was cool. I made some great friends from the race. Emily and I only lasted about 6 months. So,
everyone except Paul.
Yeah. Paul and Amy lived in LA at the time. We used to go work out with them.
He's such a charmer.
He's such a charmer.
She totally was like, my experience with Paul, it was okay. It was, we all have a part in our life, and then we move on. So yeah, she was awesome.
They were together for a long time after the race, though. They didn't break up right after. They were together for years.
Some people are gluttons for punishment, though.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, let's get to some of the good stuff. Not so fun fact. Justin from season 27 of The Amazing Race cannot watch a finale of any season without crying. ever. Has not
Typical.
happened
Really?
since
Typical.
my season. I cannot see another
That's
team
amazing.
cross that finish line without crying. It literally brings me right back to that moment. That rawness you saw on camera is exactly how I feel every single time.
Let me.
I
So I
torture
have this
myself.
right. Yeah. So I have this right. Every time you watch a finale of The Amazing Race, you relive your loss.
Yeah.
That's
Every
awesome.
time.
That's great.
Yeah.
You don't, Joey.
It's
Every
great.
time
It's great for the haters.
It's been one.
Yeah, but like Joey, like when
This-
I watched Brennan Rob today, I relived mine. Like you don't relive it?
I do, but I'm not crying.
Oh,
I mean, I don't just, oh my God, get it, Charlie, I gotta hold something I love. Yeah, it's one of the greatest experiences of my entire life. It really is. And I have a young son. Clearly, he's been all around. But to cry, and Justin, you know I love you, but I have no filter. I say it like it is.
No, do it.
Come on, man. I mean, just, can you be happy for Maya for winning and said, oh, this wonderful candy doctor just won the race, but I lost last year. You fucking believe that shit?
How many times have you cried when the Red Sox or the damn Patriots lost? I don't want to hear that shit.
I don't follow the Red Sox, and the Patriots don't lose.
This is like not cheering for
2020
like
is the craziest year.
I know. Fucking 2020.
not
right.
this is not some fake team like that you're crying. Like it's okay for an athlete to cry when he loses a sport that that he's gonna get another chance next year to win and he's already getting $1 million. But a real
Joe,
person,
you could have another chance.
when would I ever get another chance?
I don't know, 31 maybe, but you were
Right.
a little busy. Maya can't have a chance. Brennan can't get a chance. We can have a chance. In fact, we almost did. Both of us.
Almost
Let's call a spade a
doesn't
spade here.
count.
Almost
I'm
is more
still-
than what these two guys did.
I've never been called back again.
See, I'm
bet-
positive possum here.
I bet you might have been called.
Have they contacted you guys again about racing or no? Never. Again.
So, and by the way, I want to make a quick switch here,
Go for
technical. So I lost. I'm wondering if my batteries are dying in my AirPods, and before all of a sudden I go silent, and we're all pausing. I want to switch to the microphone. I want to make sure, and the speakers. I want to make sure
Sure.
if I lose it, you can still hear me.
This, hold on.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's way better.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, good. Oh, perfect. All right, now hold on. Let me make sure I get these. Hear you guys. Wait,
Yep.
that was
Is that
muted.
better? Can you hear us? We're
Wrong button.
here. Colin and Christy replaced us and went on to win the dang thing.
Hold on,
No.
I can
Yes,
hear
they
you, but
did.
now I got you on the wrong. Which one is it here?
I don't know which one you're talking about. Considering
Team?
Reality Showdown had a very strong tar team, surprised Justin and I weren't in it. All
Good.
right, you can hear. So the
Team.
fun fact, we did get called back. We were excited for 3 days, and Diana found out she was pregnant. And I was excited for a different reason, but also
And
my
fun fact, Tara and Joey got called back, but Joey just had shoulder surgery.
Mm.
yeah.
So
I got a list of
whatever.
like 9 other teams that were called.
Oh, I know. I think that's how we became so close, Justin.
Probably.
Like, you can go. You're right. Hold on.
Fun
You can't have
fact,
me call everybody.
if there's a rumor of an all-star season, the person that everybody calls is Justin. For some reason. They know
makes
the
sense.
super fan in me is like, they're like, Justin, did you get called? It's so fun.
So Brennan, you guys have
Never
not
got called?
back.
Now, so
Winners can't.
the only All-Star season where they did the really early season racers, other than Colin and Christie, was what was it? Season
First all-star.
10, 11?
Yeah. 11.
Superfan Justin? I think it was 10.
11.
Anyway, so we knew if they did an all-star, we knew we'd have a tough time anyway, because we knew Kevin and Drew were the fan favorites of our season, and the Guidos are the villains. So we knew they would probably get chosen maybe before us. At the same time, I always joke that I don't know why they call it all-stars, because all-stars means the best teams, and the best teams are the winners. Come on. right?
Ouch.
So,
Ouch.
No, it's not a sport. It's a reality
All
television.
the best
so you
teams,
gotta
the
go.
winners.
Here come the stats. Thanks,
Right?
Brennan.
Well, let me ask you a question,
Well,
Joey.
no, go ahead.
The
Yeah.
season that the Patriots went undefeated and the Giants won the Super Bowl, who do you think was the best team?
Mm-hmm.
In that particular game, the Giants.
Who was the best team of the season?
In Maya's finale,
Who was the best team of
Maya
the
was
season?
the best team.
Who's the best team of the season? That's all.
Whose name's on the Lombardi Trophy?
Was it Justin?
I got to go
Was
look
it-
at the other 6 first. Hold on.
No, but to finish that off,
Okay. Yeah.
And Joyce. So they did have at least the one winner ever on an All-Star season.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I was still close to some of the casting associates, and one of the casting associates told us, and I get it, in the early seasons, a lot of guy teams won. Supposedly the quote was, "We don't want any alpha male teams, especially Rob and Brennan." We're like, what did we do wrong? So yeah, I think that, between us and, all right, I'm not saying it. There were some guy teams in the first 10 seasons that won, so they just decided to go away from that completely.
Yeah. So the guy teams that got cast in the All Stars were obviously the Cowboys and the Afghanimals. Was there another one?
And the
yeah.
Globetrotters. The
In the
Globetrotters.
later ones, yeah,
David
Globetrotters.
Connor.
David Cotter.
Yeah.
They're a different vibe though, being father and son.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like
Well-
to say that to this day, there's still only 3 female teams that have won, which I think is just crazy. Just crazy.
Well, here's the good thing about that for
That's-
you. If
yeah.
they ever do
Yeah.
the all-winter season, you guys have got a good shot because they got to put some.
Not a
all-girls
good
teams
shot.
out
They're
there.
a lock for an all-winner
Yeah.
season. Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy. I think
Well,
because there's so many boring winners.
Yeah.
that they don't want back. So
Yeah.
And that's why they haven't had a lot of winners on. That's why they call it a second chance season.
Mhm.
That's why they don't put a lot of winners on.
yeah.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately, like, the final season should be the best of the best. Should
Yeah.
compete against
I
each
agree.
other. Just the fans, if you're gonna do a final season and know it's a final season, you should do a final season for the fans. And what is the ultimate debate? Who's the best to ever do it? Well, put the best, the early seasons versus the late seasons. Put the best of the
Mhm.
best out there and see where they're at.
See what happens. Run the race.
See what happens. All
Mm-hmm.
right.
I'm going to U-turn your ass.
You got to get to the board first, bruh. Many teams have tried. They all have failed. All right. So it was awesome to see you at the starting line for 27.
It was awesome to be there.
I love that by doing research for the interview, how much of a super fan that you are and have been since being on the show, whereas a lot of old schoolers don't keep up as much. But you are not just keeping up, you're a super fan.
Yeah, it's funny when you.
Good?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I thought you were finished.
No, there's a bunch of super fan questions, so you can react.
No, I was just going to say, when you mentioned before, you'd be the one to get the call if there's rumors of any kind of all-star season. At the beginning, that was me. I eat, breathed, and slept race, reality television. I love the experience so much. I was bored being a lawyer. Quit my job for a while. Now did the usual reality thing where you try and be a TV host, all that kind of stuff. But actually a big part of, for me, speaking of eat, sleeping, and breathing, is you probably know, Justin definitely knows, is a super fan. Blake Mykoski from season 2 of The Race is the founder of Tom's Shoes.
Yep.
Wow.
He is we'll call him a serial entrepreneur. Before Tom's Shoes, he came up with an idea for starting an all reality television cable channel. You've got music television, MTV. You've got BET, Black Entertainment Television. You've got E! Entertainment. It's all about entertainment. You've got all these. At that time, of course, now we know music television doesn't even show music. but back then, he was like, well, let's come up with a reality television cable network.
Which is what MTV is.
Which is what MTV is. And so, right, exactly. That's so he was smart and went to a few of us that all of a sudden come into some money. found some race winners, some Survivor winners. We all invested some money and got things started. And I actually worked with him in doing that. And so my job was to sign on reality stars from all the different shows to basically be contracted with the network just for doing different things and all that. So I was a super fan of all reality television back then, and I still watch race regularly. Probably not with the same super fan mind you do, but I've stuck with it all these years, and it's I would say in the first 14, 15 seasons, I knew everybody that had been on race. Nowadays, I'm not as good as I used to be, so it's good meeting all of you for the first time.
Yeah.
Other than seeing Justin at the starting line of his season.
Okay. So as a super fan, there's a couple people who have questions. Ferdinand wants to know, who are some of your favorite teams to ever run the race?
Good question.
Tara and Joey.
Sounds terrible because I'm on your podcast, but as you know, Justin, I did shoot you an email or a message right before your finale because I had really enjoyed watching you guys.
Yep.
But what I really liked about you guys was I knew you were the super fans. I think because it's funny when you watch. I mean, Big Brother out of all of them, everyone on Big Brother. Oh, I'm such a super fan. Yeah, it's like a big part of their season. Or I'm not going to tell anybody. And you hear it on Survivor as well, but you just don't hear it on Race much. So I did appreciate that with you guys. And then going back to some of the early seasons, I think I really enjoyed from a television perspective seeing Rob and Amber. Now they're obviously one of people's favorite teams of all times. I actually had been good friends with them before because of their Survivor stuff. So seeing them when all of a sudden they ended up on Race was pretty cool. They're right up there at the top. And then I've been really close friends for years and years and years with Ethan Zahn. He did terrible on the season he was on. He was second off on his season, but he's a good friend, so I enjoyed seeing him on the race as well.
Awesome. I don't know if we should ask this question, but it's from Julia. If you were invited onto the race again, but not with your partner, who would you choose? Here are your choices. The young, super sweet, highly intelligent lady who actually won the race, Maya. The super intense, highly emotional guy who knows the race backwards and forwards, is known to be one of the best players, but only came in second. Or Joey, a fun guy that doesn't always use his filters, can be intense, but not as bad as Justin, but still a good racer.
So I got to stick with the fact I got to put my money where my mouth is. And I said before, the best teams are the winners. So I got to go with Maya.
Yes.
It's a balance, and you don't have to win every leg. You just have to win the final leg.
Yes, definitely.
One thing that Amy and I did, and I mentioned this before, that I don't think they really put on camera. I don't remember. I have to go back and watch my final leg, but we stopped at a gas station and borrowed someone's cell phone and wrote down every single direction we had to write down to get to where we needed to go. We were ahead of every team that final leg until we kind of all bottlenecked at one point. But being smart, this is better than this. And that's what got us through the race, because Amy and I are petite girls. We, you know what I mean? But we learn from our mistakes. So I agree. Justin, Joey, nothing against you guys, but Brennan, let's go.
Listen,
Let's do it.
super fans of the race know 54% of the time it's a male-female winner. Males win 35% of the time. So if you're going to pick a partner, it should always be the person of the opposite sex. Somebody who balances you.
How many male teams have been in the Amazing Race, and how many male-female teams?
Total. Because if we're talking statistics, you can skew it any way you want.
It's a good point.
Statistically, it might be the other way around.
Statistically, what might be the other way around?
If you have 10 male teams who won 9, the 10 male teams total, say, who won 9 out of the 31 seasons.
Are you talking percentage of?
Yes.
Of
the
races?
Percentage of players, correct.
Right.
Yeah, he's basically saying, yeah, more male-female teams have won, but there's probably been more male-female teams on
Correct.
the race.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Potentially. I mean, there's 3 or 4 of each every season.
Is it
To
3
balance
or
it
is it
out.
4? Times that by 31.
It changes every season depending on the season. I mean, we can go
Yeah,
through and
yeah.
ask, but it's not that big of a difference.
You're the super fan, man. I'm just the dummy who's almost
Listen,
as tense as you, Julie.
There's 300 and something teams. I can't remember all their stats. I can remember the good ones.
You're lucky this is last week. That's all I'm saying. The good ones.
That's why I don't remember your stats. No.
Best ice cream ever.
Robin Brennan finished in 8th place for highest percentage. You've only I guess average placement, 2.46. You only finished out of top 3 twice. You finished 4th and like 6th, I think, right?
4th and 6th. Yep.
4th and 6th. Good stuff there. All right, let's get to the questions. We got a lot of questions. Don't know if we're gonna get to all of them because this is the longest podcast we've had all year. But you got more information than everybody else that's been.
Well,
in
and
here.
I like to ramble. It's funny. I know you've asked other teams or other guests about whether they like their edit or not. So as you know, my edit, first half of the race, I barely said anything, and coincidentally, a good girlfriend of mine during the summer between shooting and airing ended up dating one of the editors from Amazing Race. They're now married. And he told me straight up, he's like, you ramble so much, it's really difficult to take a soundbite from you. And Rob is very succinct and he just says exactly what needs to be said. So they would take every soundbite from Rob and not from me. And I remember his one of his good friends from law school who I had become friends with called me up one day and he's like, the race is really weird. He's like, it's the opposite of real life. Rob does all the talking. And so that's why this is the longest podcast, because I like to ramble.
Was there any big moments that you wish would have made it on air that got cut out?
Question. I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I mean, there are moments on the race from an experience standpoint, like I mentioned, being at the pit stops and some of the times you got to spend with some of the other teams and all that, because we got to do our eat, sleeping, and mingling. But no, I don't think there's anything big that happened. Pretty much made it on air.
All right, that's good. Your edit, had the question here. How did you feel about your edit? Do you think you were fairly edited out of the first half of the season?
Well, so here's the other thing I'll say about our edit. Like I mentioned before, we were super nervous as lawyers that we were going to be the villains, and Rob and I both grew up playing a lot of sports, overly competitive. I remember, long story short, I remember in college I was playing intramural hockey, and I got in a fight during one of the games. And one of my teammates told me later that someone heard, I hear there was a fight during your intramural game. And one of the guys goes, oh, was it Brennan? I'm like, what? I didn't know I had that reputation. So we went in a little too trepidatious. We didn't know Amazing Race that way, or I mean, reality TV. What is this edit going to be like? So to be totally honest, we didn't give them enough to work with. There's a reason we got cast on the show, and we didn't give them enough. So that's why we were kind of boring. Definitely at the beginning, and I'll stick to that. We could have been way better characters.
During your season, were there any extra dummy clues planted in boxes so you didn't know what place were you in? Just wondering if they did that kind of stuff in season 1. That's from Lucille Hartman.
Okay, Lucille. I don't think they did that, but we weren't sure, because I remember when we got to that very final, the Vincent Daniels Square, there were, and well, this was the other thing, of course, we knew the Guidos were a day behind. There were 3 clues in the box. Mm-hmm. So we thought, does that mean we're first? Or does that mean Frank and Margarita got here and they put another one in? But every time that happened, it was accurate as to where we were. So I don't think they put dummy clues in on our season.
Did they do it for your season, Joey, Maya? Any dummy clues?
None at all on us.
I think we had them. Yeah.
Yeah. We had it on 2 legs, and then 2 other legs, there was lack of clues. because we were in first place. That's when we started getting in first place a lot. So they started taking clues out. So when we would get there, there'd only be like 1 or 2 clues, and I'd be like, so we wouldn't know we were in first. We were like, what the hell happened? So that's
Here's a
what
little tidbit that maybe you guys know, maybe you don't. But I was very friendly with the girl, the pit stop mom, who she was in charge of. Who is it?
Jen?
No, Lisa.
Oh, I had Jen too.
She's blonde. Well, sorry, we had Lisa. And she's better than Jen, so there. Well, she was in charge of also printing up all the clues. And she was telling us that there were times when we'd be running up to the box and they were in a van around the corner printing, put a clue in. So it's amazing because especially in this day and age, post 9/11, and we had so many places we couldn't go, or something might have happened, or there could be a bomb threat somewhere. That's why we never went to France or any place like that. So they had to have like alternate routes, alternate tasks. They had to have so many different things. And she said, she's like, I've been up for 4 hours straight. I'm like, we had like a 28-hour layover. It was like the only one we had. And I was kind of shocked that she said that why didn't you do this like yesterday? She said, well, we don't know if you guys are actually going to be here. We don't know if we have to divert you somewhere else. I'm like, wow, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go, Justin, huh? What do you think of that?
What do you think of that? What do you think of that? Huh? Super fan? Huh?
I'm a cop. I'm Joey. I'm a cop.
Shut up.
Pull over.
I'm a cop. All right. Are you, I don't know if you want to go. Isaac wants to know, what did you do with your share of the prize money? He just told you invested it in a television network instead of Tom's. If you'd invested in Tom's, you'd be a billionaire.
I got this cool poster behind me.
He's like, you know that guy who did Tom's? Yeah, well, I invested in the other thing.
I invested in the one that failed.
That's not me.
So when he came to me with the Tom's idea, I was like,
yeah, I gave you enough money. Actually, the funny thing is I did make a couple. I won't call them bad investments because, truth be told, the reality cable thing was very close to working. But of course, now this has since failed. Fox came along and they had Fox Reality Channel for a while. And it was right around the time we had an investment bank. We did all the right things to get this thing going. And right when we were starting to get some investors in the door, the big money, because we needed millions of dollars to get on the air, Fox started and everything just went. So, but I guess the other fun story is, I don't know if you guys watch Big Brother, but the guy who won, early season guy won Big Brother All-Stars, Mike Boogie. He had started a bunch of restaurants here in LA after he had one even before he was on Race. That's what he did. I invested in a couple of his restaurants. That's what I did with some of my other money. And those did okay. I made a little money then when I lost it all. So I basically lost all my money in bad investments.
Hey,
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing.
No, you can laugh at me all you
want.
But it's the memories of the race that matter most. So
exactly.
You'll always have that. Money can come and go. You always have the memories.
Yep.
Do we have the sound bite of the old bird from Titanic who talked about our ex there? Lost all his money and put a bullet in his mouth after the crash of 23.
Jesus.
All right, sorry. Next, moving on. More on that later.
Joey's joke. More on that later. All right.
Okay, and I have to go in 5 minutes.
All
Sorry.
right. We're going to get out of here. I appreciate everybody. Is there anything that you would like to clear up? Anything that was never cleared up from your season that you want to get out there? Something that, I mean, real fans watch this show. Word gets out. Some rumor that was spread. What is it? What do you got? Something you want to promote?
Well, I think the only thing, and you, Justin, we talked about this real quickly before we got on the air. I know you guys, a lot of people had asked about how much lawyering we were doing.
Oh, yeah.
The show. And there's not, I won't say we need to clear that up because we definitely did. I mean, they were learning on that first season, and as lawyers, words matter. And there were times things would happen, and we'd basically argue this is what clue says. This is what happened, and there were a lot of incidents, as you know, the Tunisia airport incident with the Guidos and all kinds of things. We actually, I don't know if you guys did on your seasons, but we ended up being on the phone with the lawyers back in LA quite a bit trying to figure things out.
Never.
Yeah, because they were trying to figure out. Did you guys at all?
I had one experience with a lawyer.
You
He
did?
was not back in LA. I guess they travel now with him.
Okay.
This guy's name was Wong, or say CBS lawyer. But I allegedly may or may not have told a cab driver in Dar es Salaam I was going to stab him. Maybe.
Oh, that's yeah.
Okay.
That's
I had
a
security
reason why
step
we
in.
had to talk.
He,
about
well,
it.
he tried to shake me down for $50, and he wasn't my cab driver. So we had a mile in a cab, and I said, "Here's $5. This is all I have left. Will you take it?" And to them, $5 is like a year's salary. The guy was all happy, and I actually helped the security with another incident because it was a dangerous place, and it was like the day before. So when we got there, we came in first. We got off. We were heading to the mat chat, and this guy comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Hey, you owe me $50 more." And I go, "Did you say 50 or 15?" And he said, 50. I go, "American?" I said, "Who are you?" And he said he was the manager of the cab or something. And I told him for $50 I could buy the piece of shit car and rent the guy and drive around this whole horrible island to get away from me before I stabbed him.
I'm glad
So
they
they're like,
didn't show that.
"Whoa." Well, it was after the race. It was like I said, we walk in and the guy come out of nowhere. He's like Spider-Man. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to be off the show if
Jesus.
it's true." So they went and reviewed the tape. Camera guy's like, "No, Joey did everything right, and we don't know who this guy is." So he was trying to shake us down. So, and on that same leg, Sarah had spent $350 on a cab ride from the airport to the market.
Oh
To
my
the market. Yeah, it was like 5 miles, and their money is so poor there that you can only exchange the money in that airport. So we tried to do it in Johannesburg, and they're like, "No, we don't want any of their money."
They should have given you guys private drivers at that point. Like we had private drivers in some countries, and we had security following us with drivers too because of dangerous places.
We tripled our security for that leg.
Yeah.
And we had Herman the German and all those guys.
Right, yeah.
They were 2 cars behind us, and then we were stuck in traffic. And then, they got the big cameras. They started to surround the car because they were going to go out to the camera. So I'm like, "Down this alley." And the guy's like, "No, I can't. Go down this fucking alley." And we went down that way, and we kind of got away. They were like chasing us. So, but it's all about the experience. This isn't downtown Brooklyn at midnight on a Friday where everything's all safe. I mean, it's one country. That's their way of doing things, and it's part of it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's a different reason why you were talking to the lawyer.
Just like you, Brennan.
we just had things like, and just to clear up the Frank one, it just to remind everybody, because I know that was a while ago, but there was the leg where Frank and Margarita and the Guidos in Italy got off a train a stop or two early and ended up beating us to, there was an auto factory where we had to drive the smart car in a race car. So the clue said to go that far. And Justin, I know you talked on there about end of the line and what the name of a train is. I know that too. I've ridden enough subways in different places. I knew that, but this clue is very specific on what it told us to do. So as soon as we got to the auto factory, I immediately said to one of the producers, Frank and Margarita got off the train early, and he goes, "I know, it's under control." So when Frank said it was all because of us, I'm like, no, they were already going to penalize him. The reason we got involved is when they ended up giving him a penalty, they still ended up ahead of us. We're like, what kind of penalty is that? Like, we did things properly. They didn't do things properly, and they end up ahead of us. Like, that's not a good penalty. And because what was frustrating for us is when we got to that auto factory, it was a first come, first served task. So we had to sit there while they did their task after cheating. And then they got done, and then we sat there, waited, and got ours done, and the leg ends, and they were still ahead of us after getting a penalty. So we were basically with lawyers explaining what happened, and we did a lot of that. And so, yeah, we did that a few different times.
There wasn't even prizes for first place back then.
Right, there are prizes.
Yeah.
It's like a couple minutes.
Then we would have really complained.
Right. The lawyer
you've
has really been put on.
You've been really awesome. Really open, really honest.
Yeah.
We really appreciate that. That's so cool of you. It's so great to see someone like yourself who is the super fan, the original super fan, and it means a lot for someone like me to have you on the show, and to take 2 hours of your time means a lot. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that. As I told all you guys, I've enjoyed watching everyone talk about this entire season, I'm sure I'll continue now once season 32 comes around.
Oh yeah.
But like I mentioned before, the race was a life-changing experience for me, and 19 years later, I still really enjoy talking about it and giving people inside information and just sharing my experience.
That's great. Awesome. Thanks so much, man.
The Guidos are coming back next week for another interview, so stick around for that next week, and then we'll let you know what we're gonna do in between season 32. I might interview some casts, behind-the-scenes casts, like editors, camera guys, sound guys. Try to get a producer on. Hopefully, Phil wants to talk about the Tough as Nails finale. Hopefully, we can get him on. So let's push. Let's push for Phil. I need Phil.
All right.
All right. I appreciate each and every one of you, Dr. Maya, Officer Joey. I love you guys. And every one of you watching, taking the most valuable thing you have, which is your time and spending it here, means the world to me. I'm glad I can geek out and share our love for the amazing race with you guys. Hope to see you next week. Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.